Most people can only learn about this from history textbooks, from the stories of wars of independence that took place generations ago and battles of freedom won by others. But the experience of the enemies of freedom is always fresh. They don't refer to textbooks. They know how to break democracy and destroy life. It is enough for them to have their slightest feeling that they can go unpunished, and then evil acts. This is where the threat to our values comes from. This is why democracy is in danger. Ukraine knows what it is to fight for democracy right now, and let our experience of preserving freedom during total war help protect the free world, each of your peoples. When you see Ukrainian cities burned by Russian aggression, and when you see brave Ukrainian soldiers that stop the movement of the aggression through our land, notice what you are actually seeing. This is deciding the fate of not only Ukraine, this is deciding the fate of everyone who is used to living freely. It is Ukraine that Russia is able to reach with its bloody hands, with missiles and artillery, bombs and tanks. But the Kremlin's ambitions does not end just where its hands reach. Russia has been at war with all of you for a long time, with the democracies of the world. It fights via disinformation, election interference, espionage, corruption, exporting, cybercrime. Why is this happening? This is war. Ladies and gentlemen, this is war precisely against freedom and democracy. Every foe of freedom acts in the same way. I emphasize they act. Democracy must be able to act and act in advance. Democracy must learn to be uncompromising in the face of evil. The spirit of democracy is to find a compromise, but this only works for internal freedom in a given country. We should get rid of the illusion that compromising with evil can give something to freedom. The enemies of democracy must lose, and only these can be the basis of true security for democracy. Embrace this Ukrainian determination. Ukrainian democracy maintains absolute internal unity even in the face of a total war against our people. To win is our national goal. What does it mean to win? Our answer is clear: to preserve freedom, to preserve dignity, to preserve our land. But what is the strategy of the free world in relation to totalitarian Russia, which is looking for how to create more totalitarian allies in the world? Is there such a clear strategy? I will tell you what it should be. Clear answer: evil must lose their war. If it loses now, it will know that it will always lose everywhere.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is Troll Stomping. Hi, Brainless.
Hello.
We've got a selection of comments, which combination of Ali gave me, and that I found in the Ukraine Matters Discord server, Ali's Wall of Fame and Shame, where funny stuff and serious stuff are talked about. And this was a comment that was We have to start out with this one. American deep state is root of evilness. America hijacked by central bank and cartels. They're talking about us. The deep state, wahaha. It became evil chaos, satanic deep state. Why is it always satanic? Ukraine, Israel, NATO, and West is their puppets. It hidden behind fake democracy. It doesn't matter who wins owner because the deep state is spread corruption, fight money debt slavery system, lies, criminally, terror, poverty, chemtrail, GMO, chemtrails, GMO, and it's just the will peddling pile, isn't it? Of conspiracy theories. Worldwide last 30-40 years. Hitler was a Nazi Third Reich. Deep state is a Nazi Fourth Reich. Well, really? Where did they get this salute from? But let's look at the people on the shit. I think we know who the Nazis are, right?
The what? No. The country I live in was not invaded by them.
Один gangster and hooligan. They made America один dam fat assess easy to fool to continue rule. They bombed more than 30 countries. 1946, 2024. That's just an AI reading dates. 1946 to 2024, and they're basically blaming America for shit Russia does all the time. Seemingly, people let it. I don't know why, but they do. And then they go to be like, and I hope Agenda 45, which is basically a rebranding of Project 2025 of the president. Yeah, they're hoping Trump will basically root out the administrative state. So we played the video of where, who the real Nazis are.
Fall of Great Tartaria. The Khazarian Mafia won. They overthrew the Great Tartarian Empire, and the Khazarians now reign supreme. You want to know who's behind? The Federal Reserve, the US Treasury Department, the Crown of England.
That's Sasha Stone spreading lies. What's a Khazarian? That's an actual Russian shit post. So they pretty much count the Ukrainians as, Russians regard themselves at least the government does, regards itself as the Nazis. She saw the salute. And now I'm going to play a little clip because the way these people talk about the deep state and the way different Americans talk about each other, pretty similar to the way Soviets talked about Americans back in the day.
I'm Colonel Foster. I'm going to be your guide for a short tour through the maze of communist propaganda. It's a strange, shadowy world of the doctored photograph, the misquotation, the insinuation, and the lie. Now,
and Russia still does all of this.
Material to us is comical. Some of it is tragic. Some of it's weird. Some of it's dull. But all of it has the single purpose of digging the grave of liberty. The grave diggers of communism have been trying to
just replace communism now with Russian fascism. It's the same thing.
America up for the kill for years. And it makes them very angry that we don't just collapse as per schedule. Listen to this. The living conditions of the American masses, that's you, are swiftly deteriorating. Our generation is going through the final convulsions of the dying world of capitalism.
Now, you notice the way Trump talks about America as if it's dying and it's the only way he can be saved. And despite America having the strongest economy in the world, the lowest inflation rate of any industrialized country, people still voted for the asshole because they had the perception that everything was so horrible. We needed a radical change.
That's what it says here. And if you don't believe that pamphlet, try this.
I'm not saying that there isn't all kinds of corruption. I mean, after all, Trump and the fascists in America are trying to turn America into a corporate oligarchy like in Russia. But the way they talked about things is quite similar to the way, it didn't match reality. Strongest economy in the world, lowest inflation rate. Actually, inflation was close to 3% and close to 2% when you removed housing as a consideration.
Bankrupt America may have one more war in its decaying carcass, but her young men who face nothing but brute labor, poverty, and death may refuse to fight. That's what it says here. If you're assigned to duty overseas, you may see posters like this once in a while.
I wanted to play that because you notice the syringe in the belt of the piggy?
Yep.
The Soviets have been anti-vax since forever because in the countries that they target, they want disease to be rampant and everyone to be just fucking miserable. They want conflict and strife up one side, down the other. And guess what we're
HS 11 team. In fact, this happened late today. Senator Mitch McConnell pushing back tonight on a reported effort to stop the polio vaccine. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. would oversee the FDA if his nomination is approved, but his lawyer wants to stop the polio vaccine. ABC News reporting that Aaron Siri has lobbied to revoke the approval of polio vaccinations. Well, late today, Kentucky's Mitch McConnell, who is a polio survivor himself, pushed back with a message aimed right at Kennedy. McConnell, the polio vaccine has saved millions of lives and held out the promise of eradicating a terrible disease. He goes on to say anyone seeking the Senate's consent to serve in the incoming administration would do well to steer clear of even the appearance of association with such efforts.
Yep. So the Soviets have always been anti-vax. That's just a screenshot of the kind of crap that they were spewing against vaccines. And that Russia still spews today against vaccines.
In case you don't recognize yourself. Of course, we get a big chuckle out of stuff like this, but the bigger the lie, the bigger the laugh. But the gravediggers aren't laughing. They're deadly serious. And in some places around the still free world, some people believe them.
Now, he's going to talk about the progression from arrogant gum chewers to gangsters, which was pretty much the way that shitpost tearing apart the deep state by an obvious Russian troll talked about the deep state. But if you've lived in America or you've been familiar with the American media space, the pro-Russian forces talk about the anti-Russian forces as if they're woke, effeminate, cotton candy hair, idiots who can just be pushed over because they're so feminine and bagala and all of that. And on the other hand, they talk about them as if they're gangster murderers who need to be feared. And it's they're weak and they're strong thing that it's just contradictory. But let's play the way they talked about Americans back then, because that's the way they talk about pro-democracy people all over the world. That's the way Putin talks about Ukraine. Putin talks about Zelensky as if he is gay Nazi. Now, Putin's
I
Nazi.
know the thing about you and all American soldiers. Well, in England, the communists call you arrogant gum chewers. They tell the Japanese you're pleasure-loving, pampered juvenile delinquents. For Italian ears, the communists call you black marketeers bent on looting Europe. To the Austrians, they call you uncultured young thugs. To the Soviet-occupied countries of Eastern Europe, They say you are members of the gangster army of imperialist America.
Now, there is a gangster army invading Ukraine, right? It's imperialist. They want to reconstitute that fucking zombie empire. And they're called orcs because they kill everything. They rape. They steal everything that isn't nailed down, and everything that is nailed down, they will pull up. Orcs.
Yeah.
You were saying?
And to the people of Korea, the communists say you are cold-blooded murderers who tortured and shot and buried alive thousands of innocent civilians.
Which, by the way, Russia has done. I'm not going to say America has its entire hands clean over the past 80 years, but nothing compared to the shit Russia pulls.
Yeah,
Really
America also
nothing.
has also done horrible things, but yeah.
I mean, every country does horrible things, some more horrible than others. But overall, up until now, I think America has been a net plus for the world because it contained the Soviets. And they want to get rid of America as a force countering Russia because Xi Jinping wants Taiwan and Putin wants all of Europe and the world eventually. So,
Did you notice how the slander progressed? From the gum chewers to juvenile delinquent to black marketeer to thug, gangster, murderer. From you should be laughed at to you should be shot in just a few easy steps. How's your sense of humor now? I imagine that all
that's why when people dehumanize other people, we're usually always, let's be all PC, because the gradual dehumanization of individuals leads to just mass
of us gum-chewing,
evil.
pampered gangster murderers know why we're being slandered. It's because America is the major obstacle that stands between the gravedigger and his intended victim. Here is target number 1 for the Reds. And who's in the bullseye? You are.
Now he's going to explain why all the conflict. It's why we can never have resolution to any of our culture wars.
Being in the bullseye, it's important to know something about the enemy's weapons and how to spoil their aim. That aim is nothing less than world conquest and subversion by every possible means is the chief method used. The key word is conflict. Outside of the red countries themselves, conflict must be promoted everywhere. Every dissatisfaction must grow into a resentment. Every resentment must become an argument. Every argument must grow into a fight. Every fight must blossom into a riot. Every riot must expand into a war. Every war must end in devastation. For there in the ruins, communism finds its chance.
Okay, that's basically it for right now with the old newsreels. Let's move on to the next one. This particular fucker writes, no matter what anybody says, Russia is the only prosperous, I have to laugh, country in the world that has been in worse situations has always fought back both, but it hasn't fought back for truth and justice. It's the lie machine of the fucking world. Okay, case in point, Russia's GDP. This is best estimate 2 trillion. What's Nader's GDP? 51 trillion. And the United States makes up roughly half of that. If Russia were a country, I mean a state, its GDP would likely be less than that of Texas. I know that this gives a comparison that Germany is more than twice Russia. Just think about that. Landmass, population, Germany, far more prosperous per capita.
Oh yeah, but Germany has always been like that. It's always been, Germany makes things and everybody knows like German stuff is quality. Get a Volkswagen, like that's a quality car. Get German tools. If you want good tools, what do people say? Get the German stuff. Like that's why a country like that is gonna prosper.
I mean, they do stuff. They just don't steal. They just don't invade. It's far less corrupt than Russia. I'm not saying any country is free of it. No country is free of it, but far less corrupt. I didn't pull those statistics up. But yeah, getting off your ass and actually doing something rather than saying, we are the strongest because we say we are, while the oligarchs loot your fucking military. Thank God we fighting idiots. You know, it was that corruption that was the greatest gift to the free world, that they couldn't even rotate the tires on their fucking trucks. And they were stealing gas.
Yeah. And like the tanks not working and stuff. Like, yeah, that's fucking awesome.
You had people, Private Kleptovich, basically stealing the wires out of the tanks. That was one thing
Even
they
the
were
wires.
finding. Yes, the copper was valuable.
Copper is always valuable, yeah.
So let's move on to this one. This one, the top one that's going to be read first is not a troll, but the bottom is. The bottom one, the troll's name is Orange Man 666. Daniel Whitehurst 5228, who is not the troll, wrote, the ground Russia is taking does not make up for their losses. With the current losses, they are taking, you would expect them to be capturing major regional city centers, but they are not. They got a long way to go to capturing the whole Donbass, and even doing that still leaves them far away from their minimum objective of the 4 annexed oblasts. And even if they want to lose 1 million soldiers, to do that they won't be able to. Because they've spent more than 750,000 of their own soldiers with little gains, if any, from the pre-February 24th, 2022 lines. Orange. Yeah, I mean, everything that Daniel Whitehurst said is 100% true. This entire invasion for Russia has been a giant clusterfuck. And thank God for the corruption in Russia and for NATO providing weapons. And we still need to. I hope that Trump can be pressured. I don't know that he can. But if he can't, then we basically need to, as private individuals, and the EU, support Ukraine. It's paramount for the free world. Pro-Trump. Yeah, Orange 1666.
If
you know who that's a reference to.
Yeah, no, but like I do think like if America stops supporting Ukraine, Europe can never, because Ukraine is now fighting our war. Ukraine is defending us. Like, because if Putin gets Ukraine, he'll keep moving. He'll keep moving.
Exactly. Account pro-Russia note replied to Daniel Whitehurst 5228. Orange and sucks. If Russia loses 1 million men, then Ukraine loses at least 5 million plus. You are kidding yourself if you think Ukraine has any chance to endure. Ultra-corrupt nation that is almost third world without an economy totally dependent on charity fighting against a major economy with high tech and 4 to 5 times the population. Good luck. Okay, so Europe has about 4 to 5 times the population of Russia, and it has let's call this thing. Roughly half of that is Europe. Roughly half of $51 trillion is the GDP of all the European NATO nations combined. So that orange man is doing the projection very hard. So let me just finish up. And orange man says, dependent upon charity fighting, who the fuck has to have North Koreans come in to help you? And
Well, help
who's
you,
basically
just
giving
catch the bullets.
Yeah, I mean, Ukraine should just fly drones of choco pies, promising more choco pies. You know, just like a little diagram. You get choco pie now, but you want more choco pie, and then just pictures of the soldiers killing the Russian commanders. And you get all the choco pie you want. That would be most excellent. Choco pies in North Korea are worth more than their weight in gold.
Well,
They don't
if
have
you-
sweets.
Well, you don't have to do pictures because that's something the Russians might also understand. Just have somebody write it in Korean because the Russians won't understand what it says. So they
I'm pretty sure that literacy in North Korea is shit. I don't know how well that would work. But they could try it.
That might be. But I would have expected a lot of the North Korean soldiers to say like, "Oh yeah, I got killed." So you can't, and then just be in Ukraine or something, or move on to Europe. Like,
Well,
that's
I
not
mean,
really the country that you want to go back to, especially once you got porn addicted.
You know, ironically, right? So there's 5 countries in the world which don't have restrictions on printed CP. That would be Russia, North Korea, Cuba, I think Belarus, and maybe the other one is either China or Vietnam. But
yeah, but isn't that like all porn is in some places? All porn is just illegal, so that would encompass.
No, it's legal there.
Okay.
No, it's legal. It's
nice
legal,
countries,
which is sad. Very, very
fucking sad.
Oh. So anyway, when I was in Kiev, Starsky walked me by here. He basically said that, you know, this was last December. He walked me by there at night. Went back during the day. Basically 7 to 10 times this at the time for every orc that was killed. So this would basically be going on forever if these were Russian flags.
Yeah, it's
basically 7 to 10 orcs die for every one Ukrainian. That's the usual That's the usual ratio. Джефу 60-89 common sense tells me that Ukraine was NATO will lose this war against a no what? Clear military superpower. No, Russia ain't a clear military superpower. It's been getting its ass handed to it by
that's what
a
everybody
relatively
thought.
small country with
That's
the
that like
1/10
everybody
the
thought
military
Russia
budget.
was a superpower. That's what people thought. Like, but like clearly, like if Russia was a superpower, they would have had Ukraine by now.
Yeah. In fact, I'm pretty sure if I were Biden, I would basically send the troops in there right now and just kick the fucking Russians out. We could do it in 2 weeks. I'm pretty sure.
Probably.
Just give up the Donbas region that the USA turned into Hamas beginning in 2014 and No. Who turned the Donbass into a fucking mess? Who decided to invade the country and try to seize as much territory as they thought they could in 2014? It was Russia turned the Donbass into a mess. Tortspeace. Ukraine launches more US-made missiles into Russia that have to be operated by US intelligence. Fuck, no, they don't. Those missiles can be targeted. You know, like the HIMARS, they're basically targeted from the truck. The only thing the US did was they basically locked the controls to only be able to fire inside Ukraine, and then we basically unlocked the controls. And the Ukrainians can hit whatever the hell they want. And please do. The US has not won ever since WW to North Korea, not Vietnam, not Iraq, not Afghanistan, and will not in Ukraine. You're not fighting the US, you're fighting Ukraine. And it's not a matter of America not being able to win. It's that if America wanted to, we could kick Russia out right now. And then we could pull out.
Then you'd create an actual war with Russia. Now Russia still has no grounds to actually attack anything else but Ukraine.
Me personally, I think they'd cave real quick. But Russia wants to attack the whole free world. They just do, because they're cunts. Here's a really fun, it's a conversation that went on in Operator Starsky's chat. And I want to give people an idea of where we transfer our Western values and we don't realize what we're dealing with. A lot of people, at least at first, didn't when you're talking about Russia. Thanks, Andrew. Hey, how's the head of Olenivska prison feeling today? I heard his wife was feeling a bit off balance. Starsky replied, not feeling well. I think the party was a blast. Ali replied to Starsky, fireworks and cars are a bad mix. I heard the wife wasn't feeling quite herself, only about half. Yeah. That's good.
If it was about anyone else, I would have said like, nah, but like, fuck you.
But it's about a lady who's complicit with her husband's war crimes. Juha Juntunen 7866 to Ali, what happened? Was it breaking news? Jeremy Byington replied to Juha Juntunen 7866. The head of a prison in occupied Ukraine was blown up with a car bomb. Ali replied to Joha Gentinen 7866, hahaha. Well, their car went boom last night. He has been made good, and his wife will no longer need to shop for shoes if she pulls through. At Puliksek replied to Ali, it is amazing that Russians still think that getting some territory is the end of the game, as if occupants won't be hunted down one by one. Yep. They're gonna be hunted down one by fucking one. Yep. 2294 replied to Ali, thanks for ++ news. I love that username, Dump Trump. At Joran Vander Ark 3567 replied to Ali, dude, you're crowing about someone being crippled for life at best. Someone whose only crime was to marry a bastard. You're not an orc. Do better. Ali replied to at Joran Vander Ark 3567, maybe her crime was being an orclet married to a war criminal. Did she leave him after he was involved in the massacre of trapped, unarmed POWs? No, she gladly enjoyed her status. Lay with dogs, get up with fleas. I have no sympathy. Barnacle James replied to Joran, and neither do I. She deserved what she got. 3567. Maybe people just sympathize with her as much as she sympathized with her husband's victims. I mean, she got treated the way he treated other people. There's definitely an irony there. Dumb Trump 2294 replied to Joran Vander Ark 3567, you really think she didn't know about her husband's crimes? Why was she even on Ukrainian territory uninvited? Look up Bucha and urban atrocities carried out by barbaric Russians before you start preaching to Ali and us. Just think, right? They don't even have fucking toilets. One of the reasons why in Bucha it was so brutal, not that Russians aren't brutal, like a lot of these people are from, they don't have toilets, and then they go to a free country where your average person has a big screen TV. And they think that multiple, I mean, it's almost, from what I hear, your average income before the war would get you a reasonably good flat and TV, good furniture, computers, and I mean stuff that they don't have in Russia. And one of the things when they were like, the Russians were ordering, where's the other family? Who else is living here? And they didn't realize that it was just one family. That's a disparity.
Yeah.
Sec replied to Joran Vander Ark 3567, sorry, but your naivety is dangerous. Spouses, unlike kids, know exactly what they are part of. Her crime was not to marry a bastard. Her crime was to be directly complicit in brutal invasion and repressions against justified resistance. I would not go as far as the original poster, but she got exactly what any occupant has to be afraid of. Joran Vander Ark 3567 replied to at Dumptrump 2294, it's quite simple. We do not hold people responsible for crimes they neither committed nor ordered. It's a basic part of the justice system of every civilized nation. Okay, so here's what I have to add to that. Let's say you're married to someone that you know is murdering people for no good reason, and you're getting benefit from that. Then you're a vile cunt if you stay married to that person.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. And to those who know, yes, I did just imply that North Korea is uncivilized. Joran Vander Ark 3567 replied to Barnacle James, with all due respect, I emphasize with the victim of her husband's crimes. And yet I'm not filled with sadistic glee over what happened to her. It's a result of that same empathy you see. Joran Vander Ark 3567 replied to Puliksek. What crimes did she personally commit or order? Be specific. At Pulixek replied to Joran Vander Ark 3567, I understand your point of view. I really do. And in general, I even agree with it. I definitely do not glee over what happened to her. The problem is that regimes like the one in Kremlin and all its enablers, and this is coming from someone from Eastern Europe, they know what Russia is. My grandfather had stories about how shit Russia was. And still is, by the way, includes that guy and his wife completely wipe ass with our point of view. They actively abuse and misuse it for their own interests and benefits. That lady probably did not commit any crime from the point of view of our justice system. I don't know. You don't know. But from the same point of view, what crimes do you think most of the Ukrainians held in that prison committed? Defending their homeland against invasion from modern-day Nazis? The point is, the occupants need to understand that the consequences of their actions can be devastating to their own lives and/or the people around them. This is the only language they truly understand. If you deal with bullies and mafia, you can't argue using morals and law. You can't be predictive in your actions because you will always be one step behind. Eastern Europe and Baltics have been saying this for over 2 decades, while Russia played the entire Europe yet again. It is really difficult to explain this to people in Western Europe. I assume you are Dutch, who have no lived experience or history with Russia. As I said, I do not glee over what happened to her. But I absolutely agree with the method used, which included her. Do you think she was anti-war? That she was pro-democracy person who empathized with Ukrainians? Of course she was not. Don't get you virtues cloud your logical thinking. How easy do you think it is for the occupants to fill the vacant position in that prison now? Do you think they feel more or less safe now? Yet, you motherfuckers, if you want that job, be prepared to wind up meeting the same fate. The Ukraine will make sure of that. In which one side completely abolishes any international law and justice system on purpose, openly attempts at genocide and wages an imperial war, requires methods that speak the same common language. And no, this is not time for, we are not them. We have to stop them, or they will make us become them. Joran Vander Ark 3567 replied to Pulixek. What crimes did she personally commit or order? Be specific. Pulixek replied Joran Vander Ark 3567, I understand your point of view. I really do. And in general, I even agree with the equals. I definitely do not glee over what happened to. Read more. Ali replied to Joran Vander Ark 3567, it is awfully self-righteous for someone whom I doubt has lost any family in this to judge my reaction. I'd love to know which crime, specifically, my 2-year-old little cousin committed other than being born a Ukrainian little girl. I find it very rich that someone sitting safe and snug in a Western country has the gall to act so offended. There, but for the grace of God. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, when you're happy in the West, for too long we've been treating Russia as if it had similar morals. It's been run by a fucking mafia for ever. Even the time of the Tsars. They would basically gain territory basically by raiding it and then promising troops for protection and tribute. Basically, they got some territory by playing the protection racket that the mob does. They invented it.
Those are usually
Here's
very
a
nice
fun
people.
one. Bad no, and iyo udwapuse. I don't know whether or not people like the AI reading it or me. And I apologize to anyone who you're able to pick this out. That's not a Russian accent. That's a Ukrainian accent. You try typing Indo-European letters into the AI to generate the voice. And it just doesn't work with the Russian translation. And I'm not going to translate it into Cyrillic. I'm not going to do all those steps. But the Ukrainian one works perfectly with English. I wonder why. It's like people learned, it's just
it's like
it
more
works better.
like it's a more sophisticated country.
Yeah, you undermine the side you represent by stating the requirement for more and more equipment. The side. This one is trying to chide Ukraine matters for saying that Ukraine needs more equipment, saying that you're undermining the position of your country by asking for stuff, so don't ask for stuff. And in the private messages where Ali gave this one to me, she had a heading up top. I didn't clip it because it was a private message, but I'm pretty sure she'd be more clear if I shared what it was written. As if Russia doesn't know Ukraine needs stuff from the West. That she was calling attention. This is why this particular comment is stupid. You represent you.
Yeah, but also, Ukraine gets weapons and ammunition from another country. Russia gets people from another country. So, I don't know.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
I don't know. I don't know which one is worse.
I think Russia is worse. I mean, Russia had one of the largest stockpiles of arms the world has ever seen, and they had one of the largest armies in just about every orc who originally invaded is either dead or incapacitated. I mean, basically, they've gone through 1.5 to no, not 1.5 to 2.5 to 3 times the original invasion force has been put out of commission. Russia sucks. Choice of words. The position to your side listens carefully to the lack of equipment. And what do you think your opposition think when they hear you, Chang? Are you really that stupid? Are you really that stupid? Russia already knows Ukraine needs stuff, right? And they're chiding Ukraine matters for saying Ukraine needs stuff, as if that's betraying any military secrets. Ukraine needs stuff. You are telling your opposition your side's weaknesses and where. That is the same as you betraying your own side. Now, that particular commenter was criminally stupid. And please let me know, anybody, if you like the having me have an AI voice read it or having me read it. Which side are you saying?
It does mess up every now and then, but yeah.
Sorry again?
The AI does mess up every now and then. That it's not easy to understand what it's saying, but
and when we go back to this goddamn post, right? This is what you can see. It says translated by Google. So that's probably Russian. An actual Russian troll. But this is a syndrome, right?
I'm Colonel Foster. I'm going to be your guide for a short tour through the maze of communist propaganda. It's a...
No, that's the wrong one. I think I lost the oh yeah, here's the...
In America, practically nobody listens. In all countries with stable government, civil liberties, and reasonable prosperity, communism makes little or no headway.
Russian fascism. Just replace communism with Russian fascism because war never changes.
The red countries cannot stand comparison in the light of day.
$2 trillion GDP, 51 trillion GDP. Yep, they can't stand in comparison.
That's one reason for the Iron Curtain that stretches across Eastern Europe from the Baltic Sea to the Mediterranean. The barrier works two ways. It keeps free men from seeing too much inside, and it keeps the slave world from glimpsing freedom. Back of that Iron Curtain is the biggest captive audience in the world. They don't have to sell them, just tell them.
They literally do not have any real access to information anymore. Like, I think your average Russian can't even access YouTube.
And what did they hear about themselves? Well, let's listen.
Мы передавали специальную программу, посвященную сельскохозяйственному
Hi,
планированию
Drusilla.
в Азербайджане.
Oh, hey,
And there is-
Drusilla!
The International Labor Organization. The question was raised by one of the American delegates as to why there are no strikes in the USSR.
I mean, everyone just goes to work holding party banners like that, right? That's just a normal day at work, holding fucking party banners. And the reason why there were no strikes in the Soviet Union, it was viewed as treason. 'Cause,
Yeah,
like,
you
get this,
probably get killed if you went on strike.
it was basically, oh, you want your labor union to negotiate better pay and benefits? Well, that creates class distinction, comrade. So as there was like this one shipyard in Poland, I forget the name of it, where the revolution took off from. They were like, the Soviets pretended to pay us and we pretended to work. But like labor unions in the Soviet Union, and the best you could hope for them was to get the party bosses to put guards on the machines. They were just there to train you to do a job. And possibly if the union leaders were in good standing with the party bosses, they could put guards on the machines. But like that particular shipyard where the revolution that kicked the Soviets out started is the highest paid shipyard in the world. And the way that Poland decommunized was probably a far better example of how everyone should have done it. Because they didn't want the people who controlled everything before to have it. So, like that shipyard, for example, the people were given shares who worked there. And they could buy, sell it, do whatever they wanted with it. It wasn't like, well, we just give it, like in Russia, basically, the people who ran everything before auctioned everything off to themselves. I give everything to myself. Now we all good little capitalists. No, motherfuckers. That's how the oligarchs were created.
Yeah. Like and like in a very small group, like communism could work, but in a whole country, that's not what it's suitable for.
Well, yeah, it doesn't work. Let me clarify. The only instances where it doesn't kill massive amounts of people, I'm not even going to say it works. The only instances where it doesn't kill massive amounts of people is like in Israel with the kibbutz. You have an outside force that does not give a shit about the feelings of the people who run the kibbutz. If the kibbutz does not let people leave, if the kibbutz does not pay people, because a lot of people who move to Israel, their first stop is a kibbutz. It's basically a guaranteed bed and food, and you get paid for your time working at the kibbutz. There's an account set aside for you. So it's not exactly like there's no private property either, but there's an account set aside for you. It builds, and then when you ask for your money, you can leave. See, that's the only situation under which it works, is when you have an outside force basically saying, if you don't pay the people what you told them you were going to pay them, you go to jail. And it's not exactly pure communism. It's more or less co-op. But that you need an outside force to basically keep the fuckers honest. And it just doesn't work really well at all on a small scale. And it sucks on huge scales. It really does. And there's never been a pure communist thing because it's impossible. It's just impossible to have it work.
Yeah, and
But
I actually
Russian
also think
fascism
that,
also sucks.
I also think that pure capitalism doesn't work.
Oh, no, it doesn't. You see, there are people who fall through the cracks, right? So that's why you have social safety nets for the disabled, the elderly. And you need some sort of incentive to get off your butt every day. You really do.
Yeah.
But like for the disabled, what we have in the West, like in particularly Europe, it's called a mixed economy. And it works rather well. It's a mixed economy. There are private goods provided by private companies, and there are public goods. And that seems to work the best.
To the people of the Soviet Union, this is a foolish question. The reason why we do not have strikes
Is because you stuck guns in people's faces and made them work for fucking
is
free.
because we do not have exploitation of the workers.
Fuck yeah, you
Here
do.
there are no capitalists and no landlords seeking profits at the expense of human welfare. As all of us know,
And they take the audio from because anyone who lived behind the Iron Curtain knows everyone rakes shit except for the party leaders. Everyone rakes shit. And what this guy is basically explaining how they kept people in the dark as to how sucked up their lives were is the Iron Curtain, and then telling everyone that it's a bowl of cherries somewhere else. And the USSR. It was never
the Soviet
bullet
Union
cherries.
majority belongs to the working people. In no other country does the worker feel so much a part of his factory.
The party bosses had the same incentives that the 19th century robber barons in America did to mutilate and harm people just to make the other party bosses happy. Production was more important than human dignity. And we're losing people, so I don't even have to, I'll just play this part where he explains what everything was.
For the people around Moscow, they say everything in Uzbekistan is wonderful. For the people in the Euro region, they say everything in Czechoslovakia is wonderful. For the people in the Ukraine, Bielorussia is a blossoming land. Wherever a Soviet citizen lives, he's told life is just a bowl of cherries somewhere else in the Soviet Union. And it's up to him.
Yep. Either was just lied to. It was the bowl of cherry somewhere else. But communism does not work at scale, and it barely works on a very small scale. And that's only when you have an outside force that does not give a shit about the people running the commune and only gives a shit that basically it's not exploiting people. Because the system leads to exploitation just as bad, if not worse, than the 19th century robber barons.
Yeah, well, it like I think like as long as the people on the top are actually dependent on the people below, then it might, but like that is in a very, very, very small group. Like if you have like 20 people or something like that, you know? Like,
Yeah, you're talking about basically what amounts to a hunter-gatherer size community.
yeah,
So
that's
it's
what I mean with a very
it's
small group.
basically like it's basically like a village or hunter-gatherer village before money, which is not exactly anything approach. You see that? I am basically taking on extreme leftists because communism at scale is stupid. See. So I think that's it. We're running about an hour. These things are timed for an hour. And you're right, Ivy. What's been going on in Europe, right, with the mixed economics where the government does some things that the private sector sucks at, like police, fire, taking care of orphans and the elderly who have no one to take care of, and the sick, and basically it does some things, but by and large, people can have businesses, have money, and enjoy the fruits of their labor. Yeah, what's going on in Western Europe is probably the best system come up with so far. And I do believe that we need to do this because we need to remind everyone what Ukrainians are fighting for. They want to be them. They don't want foreigners to basically tell them how to live, especially not shitty foreigners who do this. They don't want foreigners who have those kinds of salutes anywheres near them.
yeah.
And again, I'm going to say it. Ukraine, beautiful country. You listen to the music, especially the folk music. You can't tell the difference between the folk music and Jewish music, except for the language. And there's a long history. Love them. So they want to be them. They want to be free. They want to be left alone to be them, be open to the world, but still allowed to be themselves. There's a strong boy tradition if you have a problem with that, as we've seen over the past 2 years, where they held off the fucking Red Army. And, yeah, Putin is a Nazi, Ivy. Putin is a fucking Nazi.
want to put that one down.
Beautiful. Just
Yeah.
let Ukraine be Ukraine. Get the fuck out of the country. If you are a marauding invader, get the fuck out. You will be forced out eventually. Ukraine has outlived all the horrible empires that have invaded it, and it will outlive Russia.
Hell yeah. Yeah, that's so much better than the Dutch national anthem, where it's basically, oh yeah, I've been a good little bitch. I've listened to that, King.
Well, there's two national anthems that I actually love. Like, the Star Spangled Banner's okay. It's la la la. The flags are still here. And we're free of the British, but we didn't know what we wanted. And but there's two national anthems: the Ukrainian national anthem and the Israeli national anthem, that basically say what it is that everyone should want. I want to be me. I want to be free. I don't want people from outside bossing me around and pretending to be the Übermensch and treating me like the Untermensch. And fuck off if you have a problem with me being me, because here's a strong warrior heritage. Oh, and by the way, I have to answer John Anderson. Having an American flag and a Z next to it is the most disgusting and antithetical thing to freedom I have ever fucking seen in my life. If you're an American, you should be fucking ashamed of yourself. Alexander Hamilton said, a nation which would prefer disgrace to danger is prepared for a master and deserves one. That's why Ukraine is still free. They would prefer danger over disgrace. You are a disgrace if you are saluting Putin, which I think you are. Fuck you.
Fuck Putin.
Yep. And the Israeli national anthem, same hope. Turn your eyes deep in the heart of the Jew. Turn your eyes towards the east, to the land of Zion, the land of Jerusalem. Hope will not be lost, the hope for 2,000 years, to be free in your own land, the land of Zion, the land of Jerusalem. And I am not in any way okaying the carpet bombing of civilians. I'm just saying it's a dream of having your own land, being free in your own land, not having people try to force you to be something you are not. And you just want to be left alone. Well, you don't want to be left alone, but you want to deal with others as equals with parity rather than, you know. And it's a sad situation, what's going on. And I'm not going to touch the Israeli-Palestinian conflict with a 10-foot pole right now, because that's a hours-long history lesson in and of itself, with belligerents up one side, down the other. I have video of Palestinian dads putting guns into their children's hands and marching their own children towards Israeli checkpoints, demanding from the Israelis that they fire on the kids. It's absolutely disgusting. The parent is too cowardly to do that. The parent sends the kid.
Yeah, that's horrible.
And we're gonna have to have a palate cleanser, and then we'll nod off.
Shall